Welcome, everybody, to the Real Dealz podcast, one of the top real estate investing podcasts on iTunes for the last 7 years. This is the place to be for investing strategies you can actually use, expert interviews, and, of course, some good old-fashioned entertainment. Now, here's your new hosts, Elliott Smith and Cole Rudd Johnson.
What's going on, Real Dealz listeners? Back here with another episode this week. Man, we had a good one. We had Jimmy Dainard on from the Seattle market. That guy is a beast. Cole, what's going on?
Dude, I'm kind of just digesting the episode we just recorded today. It's a special one for sure. Jimmy's someone that's been a mentor to me and facilitated a lot of growth for me in my business and just mindset around, owning a business or businesses. And just motivational. You hear him talk casually about, what he's done and what he's got his hands in. And, just, it's another guy that is not like he talks about in the interview. I mean, he's not like that special of human being. Like all the guests we have, they're normal guys that put their head down and get after it, and they trust the process. And I think this is one of those episodes you have to listen to 3, 4, or 5 times to really digest the whole thing and extract everything you need out of it.
Yeah, it's like that book, Pitch Anything, that I tell you about, or for any sales guys. I listen to that book like 10 or 15 times because I'm always getting a different nugget. And I think in here, Jimmy, we talk about such a wide range of stuff. And I think, if you guys are listening and been listening to our episodes and listening to Tucker before, Tucker's always done a good job of having really good conversations with people. And so we're just trying to take on that by having like good conversations, asking some harder questions. I asked some questions about Jimmy and lawsuits and, and being a tough, competitor. We talk about relationships with partners. We talk about how to be a good dad and how you try to be present. We talk about losing money and making money and repositioning equity and assets. It's just, there's a lot in there. Like, I need my wife to listen to that. Like, it made me think about some things I need to change in my business. Like he talks in there, Cole, when he's talking about equity, return on equity. So we're refining all our properties and we got a ton of equity, but then it's like, I never looked at it from return on equity position. Am I locking equity away in some of these rentals that like I could get a better return elsewhere?
Yeah, I think that I don't have a big portfolio by any means, but just that kind of stuff, that operational stuff that he has experience with, that he drops all across this episode, I think is huge. But what's been going on in your business, man? What have you guys been up to the past week or so?
Not a ton. It's been a little quiet. Last week was kind of quiet. This week's been quiet. We closed on some deals that we had tied up. We've talked about. Nothing too crazy. We've had a couple deals that have just been pushed back in escrow that we're selling on flips. We're just trying to get some more money in the business. Trying to get as much money on this year for tax reasons, but it's just different, man. It's just this week's been a couple, different. We've been working on the call center a lot. We've been getting we filled out our texting bucket for our beta guys for that. I've been spending a lot of time working with clients in the call center, making sure that their needs are being met, following up with newer clients, following up with the older clients, making sure, their lists are right, making sure they're closing deals, helping them with scripting. I got on the dialer last week for our call center in the Philippines. I was calling with our guys for a couple hours, got some good leads pushed through. So I'm trying to figure out, make sure our best practices there, we're working those, and I'm helping building scripts and getting in the zone and knowing what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, man, just trying to grind and yeah.
With us, it's been a slow last week as well on our end. We got a new guy we hired that's been getting trained up for our sales team, and we had to let someone go.
Why don't you dive into that? I think there's a lot because we actually talk about this in the podcast about ethics and how it's changing.
I'm not going to name drop or anything, but yeah, we just had a like Jimmy's talked about all this episode, just being a man of your word and being a principal in our company. We want to embody that. So we had an incident with a guy on our sales team that we felt was leaning a little too far across that line. So we had to move on. And awesome dude, we loved him. He did great, but we have to keep a fine line of what we want to embody and bring to the marketplace. So
because you really are, as a leader, you set the expectations, right? And so like from the guys that we've had on this show, and I think from the Greg Lynch to Jimmy is, you know, they might be tough on the exterior or whatever, but they have high expectations, not only for themselves, but for their people that work underneath them.
Yeah, everyone they let in their lives, dude. I think that's a common theme across people who are doing it the right way. Is everyone that's in their life, like Jimmy talks about his friends, like in this episode too. Like you have to really audit that because it's all a reflection of your values at the end of the day. So super pumped for this one. We're cranking away. I mean, I'm super pumped for the Call Magic for this texting group. It looks like we filled all the 5 beta slots. So everyone in that group's crushing it so far. It's been awesome. So that's been spending a lot of my time there, getting that all dialed in. And then, yeah, man, it's an interesting month to say the least with going on just economically with the election.
Right now, if you're just listening to this is the day after the election, and we still don't know who won. And so, like I know we're talking to Jimmy, and it's just like at the end of the day, I just want it to be over, you know. And so I think it's going to create so much more craziness in this freaking world. Let's just figure it out. Let's move on, whether it's red or blue, Trump or Biden. Let's go. Let's figure it out. What are we going to work with? So
I just want to get back to business, dude. Like normal business work. Like at the end of the day, you know, that's all we can control. Like,
yep. So, but anyway, guys, really dive into this podcast. You know, if you have any questions or you're ever thinking, you know, shoot us out, info at The Real Dealz. You know, if you're looking at doing cold calling or looking at maybe having an onboarding call, look at it with us. But ton of value in this episode. So let's get after it. It's you know, we're doing a little bit longer ones, so you know, you might need to break them up, but they're worth it. I mean, we're really trying to dive into asking some hard questions. So, all right, guys. Till next week.
All right, Real Dealz podcast listeners, I want to talk quickly about our show's sponsor, Iron Bridge Lending. If you guys have not reached out to Iron Bridge already to talk to them about funding some of your upcoming flip projects, I highly encourage you to do so. I've known the owner of Iron Bridge for a very long time. I personally borrowed millions of dollars from them over the years to do a number of different projects, and I can say without a doubt, they are the best hard money lending company I have ever come across, and that is the reason why they are the sole sponsor of this show. I've had a lot of other companies reach out to me and want to sponsor this show, but I just won't do it. I feel like I need to be genuine in who we have sponsoring the show, and it needs to be somebody that I've personally done a ton of business with. So I personally vouch for their ability to be the best, hands down, in the world of hard money lending. You won't find better programs, you won't find better terms, and they're lending or will be lending in over 20 states. So chances are, if you're hearing this in whatever state you're in, it's definitely worth it to check out their website, reach out to them, see if they're lending in your state, and if they are, I would absolutely encourage you to do business with them. Another very cool thing to note is that they have a program for most rehabs where you can actually borrow up to 90% of the purchase price. Now, this is given the fact that you are actually buying a deal, which if you're listening to the show, that means you probably are. But if you have an actual deal on the table, they'll fund up to 90% of your purchase price, and they'll even give you rehab funds on top of that, which means that it only takes 10% down to get into a project, which is unbelievable in the hard money world. So do yourself a favor, reach out to Iron Bridge Lending, have a conversation with them, see if they're a good fit for you and for your next project. I can guarantee you that you'll be happy that you did.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Real Dealz podcast. Today we have a good friend, someone I've done a lot of deals with now, and someone I consider a mentor on, James Dainard. He's a developer, a flipper. He has a massive portfolio up in Washington, and I'm super excited for this episode. He is reporting with us live. He's in Newport Beach now, so he dodged the rain from Seattle and has moved down there since. But how's it going, man? Welcome.
It's going well, man. It's sunny and warm and not cold and rainy in Seattle, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah. So if you guys are listening to this is going to be an awesome episode because Jimmy's pretty much been through everything you can think of with real estate, from every issue you can go through with flips, wholesale stuff. They develop all kinds of stuff. Interesting projects he has going on. We're going to touch it all today. So super excited to have him on.
Nice. So getting started, James. I met you through our mutual friend Taro about 5-6 years ago. My camera went out. And so we had a little bit in common. But one of the things that I've heard about you through all the grapevine is you and Will started right before the market crashed. You were running auctions and doing really well. And then all of a sudden the market crashed in 2008. And then you guys had to build it all back up again. And you guys have built this massive, massive team and portfolio and just machine. And you built it really quick. But could you talk about kind of like how you guys started? I know you flipped your first house when you were flipping burgers at Red Robin. So maybe just talk about that. And then we're going to dive into higher level, but just give people maybe who you are, a quick run through.
Yeah, so I started, I got involved in real estate when I was a senior in college, working at Red Robin or a restaurant to kind of pay the bills and pay for school. And then randomly, my business partner now, Will, had started working for an auction company. And I was like, hey, I kind of want to learn sales. So I'll go out and knock doors. And literally, they just gave us a stack of paper and was like, here, these people are in foreclosure, go knock on their doors and see if they want to sell. So I was 22, started banging on doors. I was absolutely terrible at it for the first year. I made $0. I probably lost money on the whole thing. And fast forward, when I finally gave full commitment, I graduated college, started doing this full time. I did a lot of self-knowledge or a lot of self-education on real estate, HUDs, foreclosure laws. And it went from doing 0 deals a month to about 8. And
what year was that?
And that was in 2000, I would say 6 and 7. I was probably at my best knocking doors.
Okay.
We were doing a lot of deals. And then in 2000, so we started our own company. It was actually the month that subprime mortgages blew up.
Oh, shit.
We made a decision to kind of move on from our parent company, which we did. One thing I want to mention is we did it the right way. We went and talked to the owners of the company. We worked out a deal with them and we exited. And it turned out we signed this office lease and all of a sudden subprime mortgages blew up. And, we were still pretty new in real estate. So we're like, what does that even mean? And then we found out what that meant. It was a massive crash of the market.
Yeah.
And you had already built up, solid cash position at that time, right? Before that. So you had spent your early 20s working like for the company you're talking about. And then when that happened, didn't that kind of make you take a couple of steps back? I know I've talked to you about it a few times, but just kind of what actually happened there that you're like, oh crap.
Yeah, honestly, I got kicked right in the teeth. Like it was, I had pinched all my pennies, saved my money. I owned some rentals at the time. I had saved up in the 4 years about close to 400 grand, which I was extremely proud of at like 25 years old. And like that, the 400 turned into 60 in 90 days.
Where'd your money go?
One was tied up in a massive flip. And, so when the month subprime mortgages went away, I was right there to keep my money. I was pending on a deal out in Snoqualmie, Washington. I just got I bought it. It basically went way over budget, way over timelines. It was pending at 500. Subprime mortgages went away, and then it went to contingent, and then went from contingent to active, and then it sat on the market for 12 months. I dropped it from 500 and ended up selling it for like 312. And it was just one of those things where you couldn't get a loan. So I was in hard money. I couldn't get out of the loan.
Oh no.
And it just literally, I lost 250 grand there. And then I actually had a condo pending in Bellevue that it was pending at like 480, ended up selling that for 380.
Jeez.
And this was in a very, very rapid time. Like it was like, just like that, your cash was blown up. And then also, I kind of had bad principles taught to me. I think where, when you were buying these rental properties, what you would do is you buy them, you refi the crap out of them, you get your cash, you go buy another deal.
Yeah.
But the key aspect that no one ever taught that I just will not change today is you got to make sure that asset is still cash flowing with at least a 15% cash flow in there, because any market correction will evaporate that immediately.
Well, yeah, you look at LA, we got a buddy in LA, Artem, he's building a ton of multifamily stuff. Their rents, they're put a pause on their buildings because rents are down 20%. And just with this whole Corona thing, San Francisco's down like 20-30%. I mean, when you're high on the hog, right? We've been running this bull fucking market for, the last 10 years. Everybody's like, it's fine, just burr it, it's fine. But yeah.
So, the Burr model is a terrific model. It works. It can expedite your portfolio, can expedite you as an investor and grow it. But make sure you have those cash reserves to handle a hit, right? Like COVID's been not bad in a lot of our portfolio, but like our rooming houses, for example, they're down 35% on rents.
Yeah.
Like in times of COVID, people really don't like shared housing.
Yeah.
And then also, colleges really aren't open. So there's your demand goes down. And, luckily for us, we can handle one thing, it's like during COVID, it's like short-term pain, long-term gain, right? You just got to handle it, work on it. But then you also need to make sure you set yourself up right to where you can kind of weather that storm.
Backing up for a second, before right after that happened, that hit when the subprime mortgages went out, what did you guys start doing? Because now you have so many different lanes, and you guys have your hard money company, you guys are developing stuff, you guys have a massive portfolio, you're flipping, you're selling deals to clients, you have a brokerage. What was that progression like after that point? Did you guys just start buying flips, or did you guys start doing everything at once, or what did that look like at the time?
Yeah, and how long was the gap too between like, shit, you're losing 200 grand on that deal, 100 on the other one? Well, how long was the gap until you started actually like, okay, we can get back to this?
It was just, we didn't have a choice, right? We had just started our business, and we just signed an office lease. Luckily, we kept very lean. But it was, those times were weird because like you could have, I think a lot of people right now, all they know is the last 5 years of real estate. And it's always going up. It's always terrific, right? But we would tie up deals. So what we had to do is we just went really old school, kept it lean, banged doors, would tie up a deal, and then trying to sell that property. Getting a property under contract was easy.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to sell that deal it's like you would go down to the auctions and there was nobody there, right? You could tie up a house for like $5 and be like, hey, I got this house for $5. And people would be like, whoa, I don't want anything to do with that. That's real estate. Real estate is nasty, right? Yeah. Like it was, so what we had to do, and this is kind of where we got our experience flipping, is we had to start buying a lot of our off-market deal. We had to go find a hard money lender. He was really hard. I mean, when I was flipping back then, we were paying 18% interest and 3.5 points.
Jeez.
And the reason being is we had just lost all our money, or I would say 75, 80% of my cash. So didn't give us a lot of down payment. We didn't have a lot of capital to work with to build that. So we had to go source someone that trusted us, but he charged us for it.
Yeah.
Right. And we got 100% financing. We fund the rehabs. And then we kind of came up with a model to where everybody didn't want to put a dime into real estate. So people that were flipping were doing these terrible flips, right? They were painting them, slapping them back on market. And the problem is when you would go to flip them, you'd be listing a house and there'd be 100 homes in a mile radius that were competing with you. And so what we did is we doubled down and made our product 3 times nicer than everybody's product, and then still priced it accordingly. Mm-hmm. And we'd be able to sell them in 20 days, right? And the average market time at that point was like 160 days it was more like 200 days at that point.
Yeah.
And so with 18% interest, we just went for small margins, right? And our average margin on a flip back then was like, if we made 20 grand, that was like, shit, that was a good deal. Like, it's just, if you, as a real estate investor, you can't you can't just think that this market's going to go forever, right? You got to plan accordingly, whether it's saving your capital, buying the right product, and then also just make sure you plan that your income's going to swing in any real estate. It's going to go up and down. And if you don't plan for that, you're going to be one of those people that got out of the market. But the market crash sucked for 2 years, but it was also good because it eliminated 98% of the competition.
All right, podcast listeners, I want to take a quick break, and I want to tell you about something I'm very passionate about, and that is our Deal Finders Academy, or the DFA, as many of you have probably heard me refer to it as. Now, the DFA has been around for almost 7 years, which is amazing that we've had it around that long, and we've had one hell of a track record with some of the biggest names from across this business having been a part of the DFA or are still a part of it today. And some of those names, just to drop a few on you, are Justin Silverio from Open Letter Marketing, Ryan Dossie from Call Porter, Jason Nickel from a little company called Lead Sherpa, Anson Young from Bigger Pockets, of course, many of you know him. How about Robert Hyder and Philip Vincent, 2 fine gentlemen from the greater St. Louis area who need no introduction, are very well known. How about Mr. Danny O'Bannon, the original Spokane Project, a guy that I pulled back out of a day job and turned him into a crazy successful real estate investor. And of course, Artem Tepler, who's building hundreds of millions of dollars worth of multifamily all over the greater Los Angeles area. And of course, last but not least, both Cole and Elliot, who are now the hosts of this show. So as you can see, the list goes on, and there's so many other people that I didn't mention there that I've gotten the good fortune of getting to know and that are a part of the community now that are just amazing people and even more amazing investors. But for you that are a listener of the show that may be thinking, hey, you know what? I might be interested in joining that group. Here's what you get, right? Well, number one is you get to be a part of this amazing community. You get the connections. You get everything that comes along with a small and very tight-knit type mastermind, a group that isn't so big that you feel like you can't converse with people, you can't have conversations, because that's where you kind of get lost in the weeds. You want one that is just big enough that it's got reach and you've got these people that you can connect with that are amazing in their own right, but not so big that you just feel overwhelmed. And that is exactly what the DFA is. We have about 120, 125 people in the group, which is just the perfect size. And the reason why it stays at that size is because we don't overlap investors, right? One investor per one area. And that's why most people stay with us for a very long time, because by being a part of the group, you get access to all of our secret marketing strategies, negotiation strategies, tips, tricks, everything else you could possibly think of so that you can have those competitive advantages in your area and also be able to utilize the network that the DFA is, which, as you can tell, it's an amazing network. I do business with lots of people that have been in it or are currently in it right now, and plenty of other people in the group have made lifelong friendships and business partnerships within the group also. So if you're interested in joining the DFA, which I strongly encourage you to do, go to thedealfindersacademy.com, book a call, you'll chat with Dan, we'll see if we've got room in your market for you, and if we do, we'd love to make you our next DFA member.
Because when it gets hard, no one wants to do it. And so, but we started flipping houses. Then we started building our buyer list, getting guys lined up with financing. And then we said, okay, well, we're only doing a very small amount of deals. And then also the biggest fear was people didn't know how to renovate them. So we created a process of we would help them all the way through that. And that's when we created the brokerage, because we're like, hey, we can get a listing because we're adding value, right? Yeah. And people were, the biggest thing in that market was extremely risky to buy real estate. So as a company, we had to figure out how to mitigate risk for that client. Mitigating risk was holding their hand all the way through that flip process and making sure that they felt comfortable. And then that's how we got the brokerage going from there.
So would you say you guys are creating all your, your different companies more out of need than, oh, we want to do that just because it looks cool? Like you're saying with your brokerage, did you guys sit down and say that looks cool to do, other people are doing it, or like you were saying, it's more of a, our clients need this service, how can we maximize and help them put the best product on the market? Is it the same thing for your hard money company? Was it, how can we get our clients the best hard money possible? Was that the thought process behind starting that, or was it more, just a random, that looks cool, we want to do it? That's one thing that I struggle with is every avenue I want to get into, I have to check myself. Is that something I need to do, or is it something I just want to do because it's cool and other people make money?
Squirrel.
Yeah. One thing I've learned, and I've been doing this now 13 years, and one thing I've learned is if I'm looking at what everybody else is doing, my business doesn't run as well. And people get so distracted about, oh, this guy just did this, and this guy just did this, and this guy just did this. And what they end up doing is they end up chasing their own tail. They start copying whatever their competition's doing. It happens to us quite a bit, right? Like people will go, oh, look, what is Heat and Dainard doing? Doesn't matter what we're doing. What we're doing is we are trying to source investments and service our clients, period. And that always has to be the goal when you're in this business. And so anytime we start a new business, has nothing to do with whatever anyone else is doing. It's to complement and make our existing systems more efficient. And when we started the lending business, it was hard to get hard money. It wasn't like it is right now, where there's everybody and their moms out trying to push cash out the door, right? It was a very high risk deal. And so, what we had to do was be like, it was really hard to get funding on fix and flip property. So we just created our own fund at that point just to get our deals done. And then the listing, again, we didn't do it because I wanted to be a real estate broker. I like being an investor, not a broker. The reason I started a real estate brokerage was to push my deals out the door, right? It was just to get deals done up front. So it always came down to servicing that first business, which was getting the deal done. Then it was like, all right, we're having fun. I didn't want my clients paying 18% interest at the time. That means the deal has to be that much better. So then we got our fund, and we're
Who raised the money for the fund?
It was, so what we did is we brought in we didn't have the capital. We need at least a couple $1 million back then. And a couple $1 million will get you a long ways in that market. Remember, the average house price was like 90 grand. Like you could go buy a house for 25 grand in Tacoma, no problem.
Jesus.
They were giving real estate away. I mean, shoot, we bought a house in Burien on 2.5 acres that we can put 16 homes on. We paid 54 grand for that house. And we still own it. And we cash flow $2,500 a month on it.
Yeah.
And, but so what we did is we reached out to some of our partners that were in different industries that had cash. We joined a joint venture with them. They came in they basically let us run the business the way we wanted to. We gave away ownership in the company, and that we got our private capital from there. And nice. So then from there, the hard money business actually was not profitable for 3 to 4 years.
Really?
Yeah, because you're basically raising money, and to raise money for real estate was very hard then. So you're paying out a lot, and then banks weren't giving you any kind of lines to work with. So you were lending out only private capital, so your margins are shit.
What was your default rates back then? Your default rates, did they play a factor, or were they pretty low?
You know what, as a business, I think we've only had about 20 defaults since in the last 10 years. So nice. In our lending business, as long as you're doing good loans and you're underwriting, that's the thing. Every one of our businesses, they complement each other. Yes, they're the same owners. We run them completely compartmentalized. So we don't do the loan because we want to get the deal done here. The loan has to be a certain LTV for us to buy that deal or lend to our clients. So it's never like the lending companies breaking a rule to get that deal funded, or the brokerage doesn't do a discount listing just to get the deal done. Yeah. It's the deal has to make sense in all 3 boxes, or we don't do that deal. And so our default rate's very, very, we've never lost money on a loan ever.
One thing I wanted to ask is, so many investors, once they get, to a certain level, they start, chasing stuff in different markets. I know I've already done that, or different product types, start buying stuff I'm not used to. What has kept you from going, to a different market, out of state? What's kept you just focused on the core Seattle areas? What's been that thing that's like, I don't really care what people are doing. I want to be here. That's all we care about. Because so many investors I see in our area, they end up, making money in Seattle, and they start buying multifamily across the country. So or
they want to go to Spokane because it might be easier. Or they want to go to Tri-Cities, or they want to go to Boise, or they want to go to Portland. It's always that, it's really hard here, so it might be easier there. So let's go there.
Here's the deal with me. Like, I have my sandbox. I know it like the back of my hand. So, when I'm investing, I always want to mitigate risk, right? This is a high risk business. I know it's been awesome the last 4 years, but at the end of the day, you can lose all your money.
Yeah.
And you can go bankrupt. I've seen it happen numerous times to people. So it's about mitigating risk, understanding the market. I know Kingston, Homebush, and Pierce County like the back of my hand. Like, I know every street, I know every, like, what the demand is, what the supply is. And then really, as an investor, it's not about the deal you buy. It's about the resources and the team you have around you, right? And I see that happen quite a bit in Seattle. Like, this market's gotten hard. Construction costs are gone up. Well, for me, I'd rather focus on my business and make it more efficient and go out and find those resources to make my business more effective in a market I know, rather than all of a sudden jump over to Spokane, because I don't know anybody there, right? I don't have the relationships there. Not that I can't set that up, but to do it in a way that you can be successful, you can't rush into that deal. You got to make sure you understand, you have the right systems, you got your right deal sources, you got the right funders, you got the right construction team. You have to know that market, how quickly can you get rid of that house? And in every market you can make money in, but for me, if I can't make money in Seattle, that's not because the market's gone too crazy. It's because my systems are not efficient, and as a business owner, I have to fix those systems. Because yes, construction costs have gone up 35%. So what did I do? I switched I used to buy a certain type of product. Now I buy a different type of product because it fits inside what my construction systems are. And so, it's like people kind of give up in their own market because it gets too hard. And it's like, you want to be buying when it is hard, because you know what? A lot of people are giving up, and it creates a lot of opportunity. Now, 99% of the masses are going to go to a different state because they think it's easier. Well, when that 99% goes there, it's going to get really hard there too, and you don't know the market.
Yeah. Now, one thing you touched on is, and I wanted to talk on this as well, is you said when construction costs got 35% higher, you switched your buy box. So kind of following you from afar, you guys started off doing single family, doing flips, buying some rentals, but you guys then have grown into like apartments, student housing. But you also, speaking to that Burien lot you were talking about, you've had really good foresight. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you've bought a lot of properties, and a lot of the properties you've kept were in areas that you thought would get upzoned at some point, or you've made zoning plays, and your long-term plays have had strategic planning, not just because, oh, this house is cute and it's going to be a good rental and it will cash flow. It's like, I'm strategically buying this property for future Jimmy, and future Heat and Dainard company for this plan.
Yeah, people fall in love with their assets, which I understand, right? They buy a house, they cash flows for $300 a month, and they're happy. They have easy tenants. But for me, houses are baseball cards. How can I trade my baseball cards around to improve my situation at the end of the day, right? Like that house in Burien, yes, it's great. We paid 55 grand. We're making $1,500 a month. I can put 12 lots on it. Why haven't I sold that yet? Because I typically would take that asset, look at it and go, okay, well, how can I 1031 this exchange and then sell it later? But you also want to make sure you have a little bit of control on that, because those lots right now are probably worth 150 grand a lot. It's also the next path of progress. It cash flows at $1,500 a month. I'm going to wait for that next building boom, probably 10 years down the road, and sell those lots off for 300 a lot and cash flow at 1,500. So you got to know what the asset brings you on a long-term basis. If I'm holding something and it's just simply giving me cash flow and equity, then that's a great asset, except for I need to take that equity, look at it, manipulate it, and defer it into another property to increase my cash flow. Because at the end of the day, that asset is only producing me cash flow. And so I like all different types of assets. The more we pick up cash flow and development price,
you froze up a little bit
further down the road.
You froze up a little bit on your screen.
Okay, where was that?
There you go. You're talking about your equity.
So you're talking about baseball cards. What's triggering you to do a review of your portfolio? Do you guys review it every quarter, every couple of months, and look at, okay, what do we need to sell? What are we keeping? What are we refining? What are we 1031ing? What's you guys' process for that, looking through your portfolio to the size it is now?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? And because we've taken 13 doors and turned them into 400, and we do that by looking at that at least annually. Quarterly gets a little monotonous, right? You're like, okay, well, how's this doing? So things that we've taken that really count, like the three main points, are going to be like depreciation. How far have we depreciated that asset already? You're right. Because
are you doing cost segregation on your larger multifamily stuff?
Yeah, we just started doing cost segregation actually, which is going to allow us to depreciate the asset base like 50 times or 50% faster. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, you want to look at what the full picture of that asset. So why do you buy real estate? It's hedged against inflation. It's backed by a house that you're always going to own. You can control that house and you can control that market.
Touch it.
You can touch it. You can also use it as tax purpose, right? You can defer your taxes that way. So once it hits, anytime in these boxes where they get depreciated down, or once we get full depreciation, it's usually a good time to trade back out, because if you're fully depreciated, that asset just became less valuable to you. Mm-hmm. And so we only hold stuff that we feel is of value. And value is, can we depreciate it? What's the location? What's the zoning upside in there? And then what's the path of progress? If we own a rental property where the path of progress, let's say it's in the central district, which has gone through the roof, right? And it's hit its massive appreciation, it's probably going to keep going up, but it's probably not going to keep going up at the rate it went over the last 10 years. That's where I would rather sell off that, if I'm 70% depreciated, it's cash flowing well, it's in a market that got me a huge equity gain. I want to then look at what's my equity position. I actually look at what's my cash flow on my equity at that point, right? Because everyone will be like, oh, my cash flow is awesome because it's, this cash on cash return. I look at that, but I also look at what's my total annual return on my equity. And a lot of times it surprises you. You might have a lot of equity in a building, your cash flow at $500 a month, and your return on the equity is only going to be, you might be getting 10% on your money, but it's really only like a 4.5% return on my equity. I can sell that equity, put myself into a 10% deal. And then all of a sudden I just went from a 4.5% return on equity to a 10% deal.
How are you calculating your return? Are you just doing the same way you would do on a cash on cash return basis?
Yeah, basically it's the same cash on cash return, but then I'm looking at, instead of the cash in, I'm looking at the total equity available.
Gotcha. And so then you would take that, say that equity, and say like you're talking central district, and you're saying, I feel like this thing has maybe not hit its peak, but it's appreciated really well. It's already been through the path of progress. It's progressing. It's gentrifying. So I'm going to take that equity out of this path of progress and maybe go to a Burien or a tertiary area that I think the path of progress is going, because they're putting a transit system or they're putting something in. So I'm going to try to get some equity in here and get in early here and replace my equity in that position. Is that kind of your thought process?
Yeah. So a good example is I took, I had a really nice fourplex in Queen Anne.
Okay.
Had good zoning, had good cash flow. But at the time, Queen Anne is one of the best neighborhoods in Seattle, right? And for multifamily, prior to COVID, people were, like multifamily typically in Seattle or any good market is going to trade for about a 4 and a 4.5 cap. And that's kind of on the low side. At the time when I decided to sell it, people were paying a 3.5 cap.
Jeez.
So I knew they were paying a point. They were willing to overpay me for that conditions. So I actually took it, which I thought I would never sell that. Queen Anne, prime location, had views, was fully renovated, stabilized. But then when I saw that the market was willing to overpay for that asset, I decided to say, hey, let's sell that. I actually then took that property out of a core location that was getting overpaid, and I 1031 exchanged it into Hilltop in Tacoma, which has massive path of progress, right? So I've looked into the next location of, hey, where is the next boom? Well, Tacoma had the the transit station was going in. It was getting upzoned. It was getting turned. North Tacoma has become one of the nicest. It's like, it's an extremely nice pocket. So there's a lot of upside. And I was looking, and I looked at this building and said, well, this is a great building. I don't want to sell it, but someone's going to pay me a 3.6 cap on this. I can buy this building for a 9 cap, stabilized. Jeez. And make the trade and then reset my equity position all the way over again. And if I would have been stuck in that mindset of I had this really nice building, Queen Anne, this is trophy property, it'd be not bad for me. But I just traded a $1.6 million building that was a 4-unit for 12 units in Tacoma for 1.6, plus I got to add another 350 into the reno. So I'm into a 2 million, but now that building is going to be worth 3.1 on a 5 cap.
Yeah, and then when down the road, when somebody's stupid enough to pay a 3.6 cap, it's even better.
That
right?
is better, right? And they'll sell it for 4 million.
Yeah,
and so you have to know when to look at an asset and go, okay, it is time to sell. Are people massively overpaying, right? And I tell this to a lot of our clients that own a lot of single family houses in the East Side. The East Side has great appreciation run, but typically like a lot of single family houses that have a lot of equity in it, the cash flow is not that good in good areas, but they hang on to this. I have so much equity. Equity is not worth shit until you use it, right? Either use it with an equity line and reload the money and, keep it debt free, or transfer it and get yourself into a better position. Whether you have a bunch of equity is always going to go up and down. Cash flow will get you more stable.
Yeah, we had that conversation about net worth a couple months back when I was down visiting you. You're like, dude, net worth doesn't mean shit. It's a similar concept, right?
Oh, God, yeah. People talk about their net worth. It's like, well, how much cash do you have, dude? How many actual assets do you have? It doesn't matter. Like people show it off, and it doesn't. That's just a piece of paper that does you no good.
Yeah. Well, and equity's fake at the end of the day until you actually realize that equity. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
And then they figure their equity is like, I could sell this for $400,000 and I own it for I only owe $200,000. So I have $200,000 in equity. Well, no, you got freaking selling costs. They always forget to put all that shit in there too.
Yeah. What's your short-term capital gain, right? Yeah. Are you relocating the money? And that's again, going back to why I run my cash flow based on equity, because that tells me how I'm really, truly using my investments.
Yeah. We're going to have to do this because my wife and I are right now in the process of refining out 9 of our properties. Because the rates are stupid and we're getting like 2.625 for our rental properties, non-owner occs. because our equity position, and we're like 30 to 60% equity position on all the, like, we're freaking golden. And we're not pulling cash out. And so it's like, we go back and forth on this. Do I want to own 400 doors or do I want to own 50 paid off doors? You know, I mean, what's the difference, you know? And so I don't think there's really a right answer per se. It's just who you are as a person, right? What you're looking to do. You guys wanted to grow massive, right? And so you guys kept recycling that equity and trading up and doing all that stuff. But we've also, this year, we bought a 24 unit. We're tied up in a $1 million 8 unit. We added 2 duplexes and a single family. So we bought a lot of assets this year. So
yeah, it really depends also, like, how much do you want to inconvenience your life?
Yeah.
Like
you really like inconveniencing your life.
Yeah.
I have a high tolerance for inconveniencing my life, right? Like, luckily I've got my wife on the model of we sell our primary every 2 years because I want that 500 free.
Yeah.
What that's great. It allows me to build wealth, build cash reserves, but it is a pain in the ass. I got to pack up my shit, buy a new property, remodel the whole thing again. And it's not like I'm having fun remodeling it. Like, I've gotten the artsy side of that has left me, right? Like, I just want to get this shit done. And so
I don't know, man. I'm surprised you talked her into selling that property in Bridal Trails.
Oh, that was pretty depressing, man.
Yeah. I have a good buddy that's right behind you. They're building over there.
Yeah.
We won't say his name on the show, but that's a great area.
Yeah, I definitely actually shed a tear for that one. That was a lot of work. That was and it was my dream house. But my dream also is to enjoy life, get to live in a little sunnier place. That house got me to my dream, which is to be part-time in California and in Seattle. So how
did that come about, the part-time thing? Like, because so many people want to live that life where they live, you know, whenever somewhere else. How were you able to make that happen with having your business in Washington? And what sparked that decision?
I'm very impulsive and I make rash decisions, and so me too. It's, you know, but luckily that's gotten me a lot of good deals, but it's also gotten me a lot of bad deals too. You know, it's me and my wife were on vacation. We actually were looking at a boat, and I said, F the boat, let's just move. I threw it out there. She said she was down, and literally we put our house on the market and I sold it in 45 days. How I could do that was I had to go back, talk to my business partner. He knows I really like to work, and so he's not really worried about my work ethic. And you know, it comes with some inconveniences, right? I do a lot of traveling. I'm still in Seattle over 180 days. But good team members, good systems, and then luckily Zoom and all these like systems can allow me to run this business remote. And I mean, I still have to be there a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I flew up Monday and came back Monday this week, and I picked the right location where the airport was very easy. It's 10 minutes from my house. I get in and out, and but you can do it. You just got to make sure that you're setting up the right systems in play.
Are you flying private or commercial?
I'm pretty frugal, man. No private for me.
First class or normal class?
A normal class. Now I get bumped up now because of the amount of flying I'm doing, but no, I'm not flying first class. You got to be smart with the biggest thing any investor can be that's valuable is get smart with your money, right?
Okay, but let me ask you this, because I think our personalities are very similar. You know, I
can confirm that.
Yeah, alcoholic, impulsive. Yeah. I want to go spend money at the casino, or I'm going to go buy this $2,000 golf club, or I'm going to go buy this. Like, and my wife's like, no, my wife manages all our money because I would just go blow it on stupid stuff. How do you manage that? Like, with being that more impulsive guy and being like, not seeing this Ferrari and knowing you can go write a check 10 times for it.
That's hard, right? And so one thing that I do is I put in goals. Like, hey, if I get here in my life, I will go buy this, right? And you can never lose that perception of money, right? Like, yes, I've been very fortunate. I've worked very, very hard, and I've done well. Can I go buy probably a lot of the things that I just want to go buy? Yes, I could. Do I do it? No, because I also don't want to lose the appreciation of things. I want to make sure I respect like normal life, right? Like I don't want to all of a sudden go buy a boat and then go buy a jet ski and then go buy a ski mobile, because at some point, like you have to earn that, right? Like if you lose that perception of I'm not earning this, you, in my opinion, you can kind of become lazy.
Yeah, that's something I struggle with. Is
you know, I have a problem with watches. I know I have a problem with watches. That's just my thing. I don't know why. I like my best, nicest watch. I spent almost an amount of money that would make me sick. But I waited 10 years for that watch. Mm-hmm. I said, if I make it through this business successfully in 10 years, and I told myself this 5 years ago, then I'll buy that watch. And that's what happened, right? And so I make a goal. I'm trying to get a bigger boat right now. I have figured out that I want a little bit more expensive of a boat. So what does that mean? That means I'm waiting. Can I go buy that right now? Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Am I going to? No, I'm not. I then said, okay, if I want to go get this nicer boat, here's what I need to do this year to accomplish that, because I'm not going to just dip into my savings, because the savings is how I build wealth.
Yeah.
Right.
My business partner, he's been doing this for a long time. He's been buying the courthouse steps down in Vancouver for 25 years. But he's very humble. He's done well, but he'll tell me, Elliot, you've lost sight of reality. You've forgotten how 99% of the world lives sometimes. You've lost sight of reality of what a dollar actually is. And he brings me back down to earth, like the mentor relationship, right? The dad, the son. You know, you've lost sight of reality. I think you can get into that mode so easy because you see this Instagram world, and you see, you know, even just, you know, how it is. Like you see what your partner, he's, you know, driving race cars and doing all these fun things. And you're like, I want that now. And so I'm going to do those things. You know what I mean? So you lose sight of reality, what the hard work it actually took to get there.
Yeah. And honestly, I stay off social media and shit a lot. Like, I like to do it to kind of show, you know, honestly, what I use it for now is like education and just showing what our businesses do. People live in a fake world of reality on social media. It's like people want to show off, like they have these massive insecurities. And then if you pay attention to their insecurities all day long, you're going to get insecure yourself. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is build wealth, build a portfolio, and make my children's lives very enjoyable for the rest of their lives. That is my number one goal, and I keep track of that goal. And that is in the foremost. But then I also just stay off the shit. Like I was talking about, I don't pay attention to what my competitors are doing.
Yeah.
I don't care.
You have blinders on. You have blinders on, and you're like that racehorse that just has blinders and just runs his race.
Yeah, and I took my blinders off 3 years ago, and I figured out how unenjoyable my business was when I did that. I was like, no, I'm putting these things back on. If competitors call me now, I'm very friendly. I talk to them, but I'm like, sorry, we don't do business anymore. I just like to stay in my lane, like to get stuff done.
One thing I wanted to bring up was when when I met you in Maui 2 summers ago, everyone in the room was talking about how they wanted to like scale back their business and kind of lean out and relax. And you you told me one of the nights you were there, like, yeah, dude, this morning I showed up and I wanted that. Like I wanted to find a way to relax more. But honestly now, like after listening to everyone talk for 2 hours, you're like, fuck that. I want to go even harder.
Oh, dude, that gave me anxiety. And you know what? I was working like 70 hours a week going into Maui, which is too much, guys. That's unhealthy. I get it. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna focus on balancing my life out. And then I literally listened to people talk about this for 4 hours. And I was like, it gave me the worst anxiety. And I was like, hey, good for you. That's how you want to live your life. I support that. And I literally turned around and doubled down right after it. I was like, no, that's not for me. I don't want to sit around and be lost and not know where I want to go next. I know where I want to go, and that's up. And it's
let's talk about that balance though a little bit. I have a almost 2-year-old.
Yep.
And I've started working a lot more. My wife and I had some things. We, you know, had some marriage struggles, and then we moved back to Tri-Cities. And I kind of was I missed a lot of my 20s, so I was trying to relive some of that. So we were doing 25 deals a year, working 20 hours a week. But now Cole and I have got this call center going. We're killing it. I'm working 50, 60 hours a week right now. I got that drive, right? That passion. Finally, this is, you know, I'm happy.
You're working like 9 to 9. You're working more than.
Yeah, I'm working a lot. So, but then the thing is, then all of a sudden my wife will come down at like 7. I'll be on the computer, and she'd be like with the kid, and she'd be like, and he'll be like, hold me. He wants to hang out with me, and I'm like, fuck, like it's such a hard balance. You know, I mean, I've given up golfing. I've got golf from 150 rounds last year to like 10 this year. And most of them have been like charity shit. I've given up everything except for family and work, but how do you really balance that?
And I've had to work on that too. It's a great question, because if you're like a serial entrepreneur, hard worker, you can get lost in your stuff, and that's definitely happened to me. There's definitely been stretches of time in my life where I work way too much, and so what I do now is I have a pretty set schedule, and that's actually part of the move to California was to balance my life out a little bit more, because when I'm in California, like I'm in Seattle 3 weeks a month, Monday through basically Friday, or Monday through Thursday. And then I have my crazy work schedule where I'm getting the office at 9 in the morning. I'm leaving about 10:30 at night. Right. And that's okay, because I'm there to work and I'm there to get things done. And so when I'm in California and I'm on my kids' schedule, I actually work like 8:30 in the morning, or I'd say 8 to 8:30 in the morning to like 4. And it's done at that point. And I get everything I need done, system set up, everything done in that window. So it gives me that extra time with my kids from 4 till bedtime, which I actually didn't get when I lived in Seattle. Because in Seattle, I worked 8 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday, 4 weeks a month. So now what it's done is it's actually created more of a schedule. The other thing that I do, and I really do try to value this, is I don't work on the weekends. I will maybe late night if I'm just kind of by myself, bored or whatever, but I give that time. I let my wife schedule everything we need to go to, things that we need to do. And then I'm with my kids the whole time. And that is the most important time. And so, I don't mind putting in those long hours as long as I make sure I schedule that out.
How do you stay present though? I struggle with, like, even if I'm with my kid, like staying present, like, I'll put my phone away, but staying in the moment is so fucking hard.
You mean like being there, but not really being there?
Yeah, you're there, but your brain's in Seattle, right?
That's not with kids, that's with everything. Like when I'm out just having lunch with someone, I try to enjoy just see a friend, and the same thing. I'm like, my mind's like hitting every single thing I need to do for business.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard thing, right? And it depends on what fire you got going on that day, right? Because we all know we got to deal with those random urgent fires that will just send you sideways for a minute. And, what I do, like what me and my wife do is when we go down to watch a movie now, we put our phones away. There's no access to phones. Whereas it used to be like message, right?
Yeah, we'll watch TV. We'll be watching a show together, and both of us, I look over, and sometimes we're both just sitting on our phone, not even watching the show.
Yeah, it's a way, like, and that's just by doing that alone has really helped, to be honest. And then with my kids, like, I just make sure I'm not on my phone. I'm not taking work calls. Really, instead of just being there, I'm engaging in whatever they do. Now, when they're 2, it's a little bit tougher, right? Because they're still kind of figuring things out. My kids are 5 and 7, so they're very engaging now.
Okay.
And we can have a lot of conversations, and we actually have a lot of good conversations about respecting money and build. Like because now it's almost like I get to coach them and talk to them. And you see them pick up things. And a good example is I went to sell my boat, put it up for sale. I'm on the boat. Some guy's buying the boat. And I'm sitting there, and my daughter comes out. And she's walking down, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, this guy's going to buy the boat." And she's like, "No, he's not. This is my boat." I'm like, "Well, no, we're going to buy it and buy a bigger boat." And she goes, "That's a waste of money." And turns around and walks back in the house.
She's the feistiest.
And I was like, I've been teaching her good things right now. She is 100% right. Boats, you just don't win on, no matter what.
No, that's funny.
And but it's like you gotta try, right?
Yeah.
Like you just gotta start talking to them and getting instead of just sitting there and having TV on background, like. Just engage, go somewhere with them, do those things.
I talk to Monty, even though he doesn't, he'll like, yeah, this and that. And he calls Cole every night. Last night is so funny. He picked up Chrissy's phone out of her bag, and he's like, Cole. Like he loves Cole. He wants to call Cole and FaceTime Cole all the time. It's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, we talk and we try to do those things. It's just, it's that balance. I've gone from working 10 hours a week to now 70, that addictive balance. I never seem to find balance. You see these people that are like very scheduled and balanced, and, these impulsive guys that just, we're going a million. If we're going this direction, I'm going a million friggin' miles in this direction.
Yeah. It's, you just gotta, just like anything, just stay present, shut the phone off. The phone's the worst enemy.
Yeah. Okay. So let's flip back to your business. You have a reputation in the Seattle market. I know I have a lot of friends over there. You have a reputation of being extremely hard workers, extremely smart, fair, but don't piss you off. And so you definitely have this, like, you guys will fight, you know, you're scrappy, you'll fight for what you believe is right. Could you speak to maybe the fact of, like, one, where that comes from, and two, like, has that lessened over the years, or have you, like, did you, like, you know, you get what I'm saying, kind of on, like, your reputation and how tough you guys are, not, you have a good place to work, but, you know, you're also tough boss. You expect a lot. And then from, like, people, you know, you're not afraid to get in lawsuits and get tied up if you think you're being screwed in some way.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So here's my deal. I try to be a man of principle. I operate under integrity. I've worked with Cole quite a bit. I do what I say I'm going to do. I know you're Charles, good buddy of yours, right? He's good buddy of some. Yeah, but at the end of the day, like, I need to do what I'm saying I'm going to do, and the other thing is I need to be compassionate and really care. Like, everybody that works for us, that has worked for us more than a year, is a family member at our business, right? And we are always looking out to help that family member elevate to the next path of their career and to make more money, right? And we keep that in mind. So when a family member doesn't treat us right, and you empower them and you train them from scratch, and then you put them in a very good position and you care about that person, yes, when they don't run their business correctly or they do things poorly, I stand up for what I believe in, and I will make sure that doesn't happen anymore. And, you know, like, one thing about this business is real estate is by far one of the shadiest businesses out there.
Yeah.
There is more fraud, more theft, more just
backstabbing.
Yeah. And because it's going well,
rampant.
right?
It's so crazy. People will, like, screw somebody for $5,000 and forget about the relationship that you can make millions. The first guy I wholesaled houses to started screwing me on a couple of deals. Dude, I've done so many deals. We could have made fucking so much money together, and then he screwed me.
I think that's one thing I've learned from you, Jimmy, is from the get-go, just, like, be a man of your word, and relationships end up in the long run, paying out more than any, like, one trying to rip someone off on one deal could.
A deal's a deal, right? Like, a deal is a one-time thing. Like, a partnership and a relationship goes on for years, right? And, you know, and the other thing about the lawsuit thing is, like, we have a big business. We have to protect our business. And at the end of the day, all we expect is people to do exactly what they say they're going to do. Yeah. And if they don't do that and it causes us financial damage, I do not stand for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, like, we don't go around and try to bully people. We just want people to commit to their agreements that they make.
Yeah. Can I talk? I mean, we were talking about that deal before. Am I good to bring that up just to show the integrity level of who you are as a person? We were talking about that.
The deal that bought my car.
No, yeah. So, okay. So we've talked on and off, but, you know, you always hear things. And so I've been working with Cole a lot. Cole's just freaking killing it, but he's 22. You know, he's got a lot to learn in how to handle partnerships and handle people and work with people on these things. And so he was telling me that he tied up this deal. They had this deal, and he thought he was going to make a good chunk on it. You went there, walked it with them, and I used to do that too. And this is a lesson for anybody wholesaling. If find a buyer you trust, walk with them. They'll tell you the price. If you have a good guy like Jimmy is, so you walk it, you say, "Hey, I'll pay $600,000 for this house," right? And
well, it actually is even a little bit different because
you tell a story, because
we carpooled there too.
We carpooled. So, like, they call me and they say, "Hey, we haven't been inside this property yet. It's in really bad shape according to the owner, and that we think it's going to be around 550." Right, and so I'm underwriting this deal with them. I said, "Hey, I'm going to bank in like $175,000 for this reno." Okay. I actually carpool with Cole out there. We do the walk around. They haven't even contracted the deal yet. And so, so I'm walking through the property, and all of a sudden the property needs about $50,000 less in work. And they hadn't been in the house. I hadn't been in the house. And so I said, "Hey, look," so we get done with our walkthrough. I'm like, "Well, that was a lot less work than I thought. So here's the deal. I can actually pay $600 for this." Not because for me, it's just math, right? My rental budget went from 175 to 125.
Most people wouldn't do that. You can't just skip over that. Most buyers would not say, "Oh, I have an extra 50." If anything, they'd say, "This is a little worse than I thought."
Yeah, exactly.
25, because you knew our spread on it. Like you knew we had room on it, so that's you skip over that. But most people would not do that. So
no, and and I knew they had margin, but at the end of the day, like I'm trying to usually buy a deal. Let's say without leverage, I'm targeting like a 16% cash on cash, 15 to 16% cash on cash return. I quickly ran the numbers. I was like, well, with this new reno down and the time I can turn this, I'm actually going to be at like 20% at 600. So it's a better deal for me anyways, right? Like, for me to maximize that deal, I didn't work for that lead. I didn't call, like Cole's guy called this guy for a year. Yeah. Every 3 weeks.
At least every week.
Every week, right? He put the work in for that property. And it at the end of the day, I was happy at 600. Like for me to grind Cole down 25 grand just so I can make more money, that's not a partnership at that point. That means you guys are just doing business together. And for me, strategic partnerships is way more important, right? Like, because I always want to be someone that I can call up Cole and say, hey, do you got any deals? I need one. Or, hey, he can call me, and it's an ongoing relationship. And relationships last, deals don't, right? The market changes, people go away, they come, they go. And to find those good people, you just want to work with those people.
Yeah. So then you went back in the house, or Mike went back in the house.
Well, we were standing outside, and I was like, what do you think he's going to get it at? And Jimmy was like 500. I'm like, dude, he's going to be low fours. And the ARV on that thing was like 900. I don't know, 9 or 950. I forget.
Yeah, 950. Yep.
He was like, no way. But yeah, you can keep telling the rest of the story.
Yeah. So then go ahead, Jimmy. This is your guys' story. I'm just third party in it. So
Mike comes out. He goes, got it. I'm like, what'd you get it for? He's like, 425. And I'm like, holy shit, dude. That is, and honestly though, that makes me extremely happy, right? And that's when you know you have good partners, right? When I remember when I was younger and got my first huge assignment fee, I made 85 grand on that deal.
Yeah. And
that feeling that I got was like, holy shit, my world just changed. Like I have just figured out something that can make me some money.
Yeah. I saw the picture of my first $25,000 check on my phone.
Oh yeah.
I still have it from this. I mean, it's the oldest picture on my phone by far, but yeah.
Yeah. And the problem with investors is they get greedy. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, I already told you a number I'm extremely happy with getting the house for.
Yeah.
And yes, you just got a good deal. And then the investor's like, well, and I work with a lot of investors that buy properties, so I have to walk them through this scenario, right? Like, Mike could have got the property for 100 grand. That's okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's the name of the game we're in. Like, you have to be happy for the partners. And it doesn't matter at the end of the day. I'm trying to run a business, buy certain types of assets, renovate them, and sell them for a certain margin.
Yeah.
Like, they need to be able to make their money, right?
Well, then people forget though. Okay, so say you come in and you say, oh, you were happy at 600. Now all of a sudden you're like, well, fuck that. I need it to be lower. And so you get pissed and you're like, well, I'll do it for 25K less or 50K less or whatever. And they say, fine, okay, whatever, it's fine. But is Cole going to call you on the next deal?
Well, no, because we don't have their best interest at heart.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that people forget about partnerships. Like, I need to work harder. I don't need to say, oh, I'm working more than them. I'm saying I'm giving everything I have because I want him to win just as much as he wants me to win. So they never let each other down. And then you got to know when you're in a trench, or you're taking grenades or something, that your partner is never going to leave you to at that point. They're there on the good times and they're there on the bad times. Right. Yeah. And how do you take care of somebody and love them like their family, like your kids, right? That's how you should look at partnerships, like they're your parents or your kids or your brother or your sister. You're going to fight, but.
And it goes back to that same rule I talked about, like social media and like looking at other people's businesses, like looking at what people are doing on social media. What is my competition doing? How much is this guy making? If you're constantly looking at everybody else's shit, then there's something wrong with you at that point. You need to work on that own character defect, in my opinion. Focus on you. How can you improve your life, and don't expect other people to do it for you, right? Like, for me, I was focused on the deal. I'm happy at this price. The rest is up to Cole to whether he gets the deal done for a big margin or not, right? Like, if he would have came at me and said, hey, look, you said 600, I only got this for 595. I'd be like, well, shit, dude, you made $5 grand then.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just thinking the exact same thing. It's going to go both ways, right?
It always goes both ways. And if you don't, partnerships are about going both ways, two-way street.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a two-way street, it's not a partnership. It's not worth nurturing, in my opinion.
I like that partnership clause that they put in where, say I want you to buy me out and I'm pissed or whatever. So you're like, all right, write a number down, but I better bring my checkbook for whatever number I'm writing down. I have to be willing to buy you out at the same price, So don't, my partner always says, I'll cut the pie. You pick the slice. We had bought 3 duplexes early this year, had them tied up. And I'm like, Corey, I really want to keep one. And he's like, all right, well, you keep one. I'll keep one. We'll sell one. And he's like, you know what? You found the deal. You pick first. And I'm like, that's pretty fucking cool. It's
that's
just
fair. That's a
fair.
great, that's totally makes sense.
And then I get a pick. I pick first and he picks the next one. And then whatever's left, we sell it and it's fine. And we're both happy. Yep. So what do you say? You've been doing this for 13 years. What do you think, what's the shit that people don't talk about? Like everybody makes it sound on education. It's so great. You can make so much money. This is the greatest business in the world. You can be a freaking, have an IQ of 10 and make money. What is the shittiest part of this business?
And piggybacking on that, what are a few of the principles you think that have allowed you to scale as fast as you have and be in business for, 13 plus years?
Yeah. Dealing with the shittiest stuff.
Dude, I get shit thrown at me on a daily basis. Well, it can be salespeople stealing from me. It can be bad tenants. It can be bad city. It's just constantly bullshit. Yeah, and that's one thing that I think why our business is done well. We don't sell dreams. We sell investments, right? Like we're not going to, even when you come to our cash flow class, we don't go and say, hey, look at this mega deal that we did. We show the most average deals there are because we want people to know that this is really what the true returns are. And it is not all sunshine and bunnies though in this business, right? I've seen things from, I've been stolen. I've lost $350,000 to contractors. I've lost my whole network or all my cash in 2008, right? I've had tenants burn down buildings before. I've had employees make fake IDs and steal shit from me. Right? There's this business at the end of the day, what people always need to remember is whatever's being sold on whatever course it is, you want to go with facts and stats and actual things, not just perception, right? Put this out in the universe and it's going to come back to you. Yeah. No, you got to run this like a business too, right? And people come in the door. We work with a lot of new investors and they go, well, yeah, I buy this thing, I hire a contractor and then I sell it and I make money. There's so many moving parts that you have to know before you make that first investment purchase, right? And it's 100%. The biggest attribute you can to navigate these is just to be accountable, right? If a deal goes bad, it's not because someone sold me a bad deal. It's because I fucked that deal up or something outside my control fucked it up. But the way we've been able to grow is just general principles is having the integrity, doing what we say we're going to do, and accountability, holding ourselves accountable that we are the ultimate. Whether we're successful or not has nothing to do with anybody else, has to do with me and a right team around me.
So now if people don't know what Jimmy's kind of talking about is they have a business where they'll source it was auctions before. They would source these deals. They would have investors that would buy them. They would use their hard money and they would have some contractors that could help them. They would basically give them a design packet. Here's the packages you need to do. And they have an agent that sells it. So people would say, oh, okay. So I just buy this house from you, sign on this dotted line. Everything's great. And I make all this freaking money. Well, that's great when the market's working. But then 2018, when the market started, when the interest rates went up 5.5%, it probably got a little harder. But what happens when somebody comes at you? I know I have another buddy that, they'll be lawsuits sometimes, get sued and be like, you told me this was going to make money and I ended up losing money. How does that pan out? Or how does that work? Or what do you guys do I know you guys have really high integrity that you'll buy deals back from people and you'll lose money on the deal. Talk about that side of the business because a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. And that's a great, if you want to scale, you need to have the right paperwork in mind or right paperwork in line. Also, one way we prevented a lot of lawsuits. So we've done over 3,000 deals with investors. I have never been taken to court from an investor for us selling a bad deal. I've been taken to court for all sorts of random weird shit in life, But luckily I've never lost either. So, where was I just there? It's the reason is though, we do good business, right? Like, and that's the thing, you can't be greedy. Like in a business, you got to make sure like we put in the right underwriting, we have the right protection for our client. And because we do this A to Z service, like, yes, we are finding the deal. We are making money on that.
Yeah.
We are making money on the loan, and we are going to require a listing from you that we're going to make money on. But the other thing that listing does, it's not just to make money. We're there to protect your investment, to help you through the process.
Mm-hmm.
And because our team is so good and they have so much integrity, we really do think about the clients during their project. And what we're doing is, investors will buy a deal and they just assume they're going to make money because it's on TV.
Yeah.
You have to and then that's where you get in trouble. Like, oh yeah, this guy buys it from your friend. They just think they're going to make money. And then they're pissed because they are now blaming this guy for selling them a bad deal. And it's really about execution. We have so much of our hands in the execution side that we can really make sure that the client's not going to go too far off the rails. And at the end of the day too, if we do sell a bad investment or something that we were wrong on, I cut a check immediately. There's no questions asked.
So say it was like in a flood zone or something, and you're like, you didn't see that on underwriting. And so then when they go to sell it and say it's in a flood zone, you're like, oh shit, I can't get insurance for this. Nobody knew. You missed it on the title report. You just be like, fuck it, I'll write a check.
Yeah. I mean, so like a good example is one of my sales guys had a deal under contract. He had a Form 17 that said it had a broken sewer line.
Okay.
For some reason, he did not put that in what our suggested scope of work is, right? And we have those disclaimed every which way.
Yeah.
Hey, buyer beware, do your own due diligence. At no point am I liable for that contractually. Client calls me and goes, dude, the sewer line's broken. You guys didn't put this in there. It's on the Form 17, which I'm like, the first question I asked the client is like, well, did you look at the Form 17? He's like, well, I signed it, but I didn't really read it. I just assumed you guys knew it and would have told me. Now, granted, I don't owe this guy any money at this point. Contractually, I'm fine. But the right thing to do, as long as you do the right thing, I cut this guy a check for $18,000. We made 12 on the deal.
Jeez.
Okay. Yeah. So I wasn't worried about my loss because at the end of the day, I have a reputation to do what I say I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. I'm going to make sure it's right. And I got to step up when I make the mistake. Now, if the client makes the mistake and they're trying to blame us, I will sit down with them and I will go through every little detail of their project. I'm going to politely show how they fucked this up and didn't follow the format. Mm-hmm. And then we'll get to a resolve. But you have to be reasonable. Just like we were talking about with building partners with your clients, you have to be reasonable as well. Like if something got missed, and yes, it's going to hurt and you're going to have to pay some money, you need to step up and do that though.
Yeah.
And if the person's wrong, then you need to sit down and logically show them why they're wrong.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge.
I would just go back and listen to that on freaking repeat. I've written checks before. I've wrote checks before. We just did it in our call center business. The guy, we skipped a bunch of stuff, but he didn't scrub his list right. And he called me and said, oh man. So I just re-skipped all the new data for him. Here you go. And he sent us this review that was glowing. Like the best review I've ever seen in my entire life, because he's like, I had no money. I needed these to go. And now all of a sudden we have 9 deals like a month later. And it's just like, I actually like, it's $3,000 to me. $3,000 at the end of the day doesn't fucking matter. Right. But now think about long-term, like now you got the guy that did the sewer, dude, he's a Heat and Dainard guy for life. Yeah. It's like how many, okay. I lost $6,000 on this deal or whatever, but I'm going to make it up on the next one and the next one and the next one. And then when there is an issue, the guy's going to respect me when I say, hey, this is actually your fault, not my fault. Then he's going to respect you enough to be like, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really easy for a company to just say, hey, you signed the disclaimer, I'm out of this.
Yeah.
But it always comes down to what's the right thing to do, right? And that's also why I don't take shit from people and I have that reputation. I do expect people that I work with to have the same ethic and integrity as me. If they don't have those, and they work with me, I will enforce those, period.
There's no like checks and balances in real estate, like the industry. Like no one's out there. Like the only people that check people are MLS, and it's for random stuff that no one should care about. You know,
it's just word of mouth, right?
There's guys getting away with that with shit all the time. That's so slimy. They're not only screwing over, relationships. They're screwing over like sellers.
Oh yeah,
real life situations.
Oh yeah.
Family and all that kind of shit. So I mean, I think it's huge that that you don't let people cross over that line, because someone has to, you know what I mean? Otherwise, they're going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again.
So now we're running out of time here, but you have from the outside a really good partnership. I know you focus on one side of the business and Will focuses on another side of the business, and partnerships are hard. How have you managed to make that work so well over time? I mean, there's a lot of people that have partnerships or maybe working with their spouse, and we try to stay out of each other's lanes, but how have you made that work so well over the years? I'm sure there's been ups and downs and bumps in the road, but
yeah, sorry, you broke up for a sec, but I think basically your question is how have I made this partnership last so long?
Yeah, last so long, because there's going to be ups and downs and there's bumps. And how have you built that relationship, and maybe dive into that relationship a little bit?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, my business partner is kind of like a brother to me. And the one thing you have to have, in my opinion, and not all partnerships are perfect, right? But it's what you have to have is you have to have 100% trust in that person, right? If you have that trust, like for example, I do a lot of good deals for our company. We make money on them. I also do some bad deals because sometimes shit just goes wrong, right? Contractor rips you off, you get red tagged, wheels come off, and everything that you can think of gets thrown at you at that one specific property. Same with my partner, Will, right? Sometimes he does some amazing development sites and sometimes they're duds, right? That's just the way it goes. At no point in the last 13 years have we ever not trusted each other, like, hey, why did you put me in that position? Because they know, he 100% knows and I 100% know that we have our best interest in mind all the time, right? And then we have a very good communication to where we trust each other. We can allow each other that trust. What that does is it builds to where I can let him run his side of the companies and I run my side of the companies, and we check in with each other. We don't micromanage each other. And, in our businesses, they all have good years and bad years, right? One year, our lending company might be through the roof. And then down the next year, and Heat and Dainard could be through the roof, right? And it's never like, well, your company didn't do that well, mine did, right? Like it's always a team effort. And the reason we can do that is like, the reason we're so efficient is I let him do the day-to-day, the hiring, the budgeting for that company. And then I get to do mine, and
there you go.
It allows us to expand and grow and check in rather than micromanage each other.
Gotcha. There you go.
Did you guys hear me on that, or did that freak you
Yeah,
out?
we heard 99% of it. Yeah.
But it's hard. You got to trust that person, and if you don't trust your partner, there's no point in being a full partner on it. And you know what? I've had some bad partners too in life.
Yeah, me
like,
too.
Honestly, I don't think I'm ever going to take on new partners like that I don't know really well. It's just you really want to make sure that person's on the same wavelength for integrity and just general life principles before you engage in the next step, which is the idea.
Moving to kind of wrap up here. What is?
I have one more question on the partnership deal. Cool.
I have one more question too.
Okay, cool. On the partner, yeah, go for yours.
No, mine's something else.
Okay, cool. So I really, the cool thing about having Cole on this show is, he's in that moldable age. I know he doesn't like everybody to find out how old he is, but
my prefrontal cortex is still developing.
his prefrontal cortex is still developing. But he's going to have a lot of guys, because he is being successful, that want to tie their boat to him, right? They want to ride his coattails. When we started our call center, I was like, hey, I'm going to go do what I say I'm going to do, and then we'll come back, and then you can allow me into the partnership if I perform. But how would you coach if you were Cole right now? What would you tell yourself if you're Cole starting out in this business, with knowing that people are going to be drawn to him and want to grab and take what he's created and ride his success?
That's a great question, because that has happened to me for years, right? Like, I've had some partnerships where they kind of come up with an idea, then the person doesn't carry their weight or bring any value after it's all said and done. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Like, we're not only are we making money, but you're not here. Like, or you didn't do what you're going to say you're going to do. And, and it's hard because it will put you in a mindset sometimes where you're like, I don't want it. Like, people kind of approach me and I'm like, whoa. Like, hey, you're not in my circle, so I don't really want to deal with you. But what you have to do is really generally make sure, get to know the person first, right? I mean, for example, me and Cole, when we met in Maui, we didn't go right into deals.
Do a deal together until like 6 months after that, I think.
It wasn't like, hey, Cole, you're this great kid that can create deals and I want something out of it. I just got to know him as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
I was at your office a couple of times. Like it was,
Yeah, it was just like, at the end of the day, your life is only, what I've learned in life is it's short and you only have so much time in your life. You want to surround yourself with good human beings first.
Yeah.
Right. And then from there, then as you're like, and then even for months after me and Cole working together, it was more like, it was never like, I don't think I ever asked him for anything or he asked for anything. We would just be talking and he'd say, hey, this problem came up. And I go, oh, I've seen that before. And this is what this, and this is. So it came from a genuine friendship first. And then.
And he's like an onion. You got to peel a lot of layers back to really get on the inside of Cole.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem too. Like if you're trying to peel the layers back, it's like you're kind of like, I didn't have that. It was just like we just were bullshitting, right? And talking and that's really how I built all of my very valuable partnerships. Is like you just get to know a person, you find out you're in the same wavelength. Yes, you're in the same industry, and then from there, I also go as I'm partnering with people. Are they bringing as much value as you are, or are they bringing you some sort of value to your business and your life? Right? Like me and Cole talk about lots of deals that I'm not involved in, but we talk about them, and I do it because I just like him as a person, so I want to help him as a human being. And also it's just like, hey, I like seeing people grow in general, but like there's lots of deals that Cole sells elsewhere, not me, but that's because he has other relationships and those things are going on. But it's also because I don't have the expectation, right? We're still friends at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's in whatever I can do to help him is also going to help me, right? And so there is a true partnership. Just you got to take inventory on that person, find out what they're bringing to the table. Are you on the same wavelength? And then kind of go from there.
Cool.
Yeah, so kind of moving to wrap up, one last question I had is where you're at now, how do you goal set? What does that look like for you? How do you, look down 5 years down the road and say, are you getting really specific? This is how many units I want. This is what my cash flow to be. This is what my portfolio to look like, my flips. Like, what does that planning look like for you for that goal setting?
Yeah, so, I kind of goal set two different ways. I do one personally. I really am a person that really keeps his personal life and his business life try to separate. Like, I don't like to bring my work home with me. I don't like to hammer my wife with problems that I have through work. So I set my personal goals, which are usually based around my kids, my health, and my relationships. And then my business goals, it just start, I don't really look at doors because doors, again, is more like equity. It's like, oh, you have 3,000 doors. What does that even mean? Is that a good thing?
Syndicate them? Yeah.
Yeah, that could also be a terrible thing. You could have 2,500 of those 3,000 doors are dog shit. And if the market goes down, you're going to eat shit, right? Like so what I look at is, so one thing I did learn is I was pretty leveraged about 3 years ago, not pretty, we have a ton of equity, but I would say when I did look at my net worth or whatever, or my position, what I wanted to do is make sure it was balanced. And so now I build my goals off of my portfolio, my cash, and my personal living, right? So I make sure that I have a certain amount of capital that I have personally. I know I will only invest that at a 10% return to be able to grow that, right? And so usually what it comes down to, my big goals, there's so many things that we do. Each one has their own goal set. So like our businesses, we set our amount of deals we do and those things, like how is our profitability? We want our margin at a 50% margin or some sort of margin built in. And then based on that, how do we grow those sales because we know we're inside of our margin, right? Typically with any business, I'm trying to grow that business at a 10% to 15% per year. That's a very reasonable expectation.
Yeah. There's certain things you can't control in business, right? You can't control the corona. You can't control interest rates. You can't control amount of deals, but your margins, you can control margins, right?
Yeah.
Like you said before, you could buy houses for $90,000. Now you're buying less houses, but you got to control your margins, right?
Yeah, you have to adapt. What you can't control is how you adapt as a business person, right? You get punched in the stomach. Are you going to sit on the ground and cry about it? Or are you going to air it out, go for your walk and get the fuck back on, like, and keep moving, right? And so the goals that we, so that those goals are our real estate portfolio goals. So like what I do right now is I try to make personally, I treat myself personally. My business is separate. I think that's important, right? Because I also do a lot of my own personal investments. Like right now, me and Cole are doing a personal investment deal where I'm usually using my own cash on it. And so I put expectations of, my goal is to have X amount of passive income a year, right? My goal right now is to have $100,000 a month in passive income.
Okay.
Right. And then grow my other businesses. That is my goal. Am I at my goal yet? Not yet, but I will get there very soon.
Nice.
And like, that's it. But how do I, and then it goes, okay, how do I get there? Well, I get there by buying the right rental properties to get me the right cash flow. That means I might not buy these big development deals because they're not as high cash flow, and I'll target different markets to get the cash flow. I'm going to lend my money and I'm going to put together that plan to get me to that goal. And so, there's, our off-market company, we're trying to get that to, we want to have a certain amount of revenue or profit per year, right? So I usually break it down by profit because I'm going, hey, this goal, I need to be at this kind of profit for the amount of work I'm putting in anyways, or it doesn't matter how many deals I'm doing. Like I can do, one thing, my off-market company, we used to do so many more deals, but our margins were in the toilet because we're paying so much in marketing to get them. And so I had to flip that switch and go, well, doing the most amount of deals doesn't matter. Doing quality deals matters. Because it not only that goal lines up with my personal goal. I can work less because I'm doing less, but I'm getting more quality, right? And so you kind of need to map them all out. And then I would say you need to revisit those. I revisit mine about every 6 months.
Gotcha.
And find out where the check-in is. It's and I've had to get good at it because I used to never write my goals down. It was always about, well, I'll just keep working my ass off and good things happen.
Yeah.
And but I have mapped those out. The last 2 years I've been mapping those out.
Well, man, that was an awesome episode. Thanks for coming on. It was we hit on a bunch of stuff. I think the people that listen to this are going to get a lot out of it. And
this is actually probably one of my favorite ones I've done. It's just very laid back. I like it.
Yeah. Well, it's just like a conversation. Like I think Tucker always had this kind of role. He just wanted people to be able to fly on a wall. And so I was telling Cole before this podcast, like, let's just talk to Jimmy. Like we are asking the questions that I'm going to ask you if we're sitting on your boat, smoking a cigar or whatever. I'm not smoking cigars, but you get what I'm saying? Like, and let's ask some harder questions or some deeper questions and get out of just the surface level shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's too much fluff out there. Fluff and bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, or like these guys, like you said, I'm doing hundreds of deals a month, but you're not making fucking any money. You know what I mean? Like the goal is to make money.
Yeah, it's to enjoy life and make a living for yourself and build your retirement plan
and buy watches.
I do love my watch. I got it.
Hey,
here's the deal. That's a great thing though. So I want another watch. I got my eye on it. To get that watch, I'm selling 3 of my other watches. Do I need to sell those? I don't.
Which one are you selling? I need to buy. Cole got one. I got to buy one.
Oh, well, let's not do this on this.
Yeah, we'll talk offline.
Yeah, let's auction off live on Facebook.
Yeah,
Facebook Live. Who wants to buy my watches?
All right, man. Well, we appreciate it. You can. We'll hop off. Cole, great show, Jimmy. Man, so much respect. I mean, anybody that listens to this in the Seattle market, really look at Heat and Dainard. I know, Jimmy, you're on Instagram. You're growing that quite a bit. You're putting a lot of value out there on Instagram.
We're doing a lot of free education stuff on there. So
when are you going to write a book?
I'm actually working on one.
Nice.
And it's actually all about failing in real estate. Nothing cool. It's all about my fuck ups and fails in real estate.
That's cool though, because no one does that. Everyone's like, look at me, I'm a millionaire. Come to my seminar. I'll sell you a $75,000 course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me about 6 months. I'll be ready to go. And it's going to be all my nightmare stories.
Nice. We'll have you back on.
It's going to be a long ass book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So J Dane Flips. So J Dane Flips on Instagram. Heat and Dainard out of Seattle. If you're in Newport Beach, you maybe send him a nice gift basket. Maybe he'll talk to you on the phone. If you have a boat you're selling, he's looking for a bigger one. But you gotta hit some goals first. So Jimmy.
Thank you, man. That was awesome.
Thanks.